Brittany, Ryan, and I decided we were going to take Jerry Bach and Sheldon Harnick's Fiddler on the Roof script and attempt to cast it in a more modern light. This seemed like a natural change to make since the show is often commended for its universality due to the themes being very pliable and relatable to different groups. We took the show's central conflict, whether or not to modify your traditions to fit present situations or stick with what you've always known, specifically regarding the scene between Tevye, Hava, and Fedka regarding Hava and Fedka's marriage. Instead of having Hava, a Jew, marry Fedka, a Christian, two contrasting faiths, we updated the groups to be two contrasting political parties. We changed Hava's name to Amber, Fedka's name to Connor, to cast them in opposing political parties, Republican and Democrat. The dilemma, namely marriage, into contrasting groups, was kept consistent as to not change the essence of the show. We felt the shift from contrasting religions to contrasting political identities was a natural change, considering today's people argue politics as vehemently as they used to argue doctrine decades back. Democrats and Republicans are at each other's throats in the media regarding gun control laws, women's rights to their bodies, same-sex marriages, economic plans, which led to conflict among many people, even family members today. Therefore, the opposing strife between the two groups onto Hava, Tevye, and Fedka to show the parallel between religion back then and political parties now. Politics has grown to a fanatic level, with both sides unwilling to see the other's reason, thus breaking up the country into two groups, Democrats and Republicans. Thus, the altercation between Tevye and Hava becomes a microcosm for America's current social climate, as the two groups eventually divide and continue pushing for their own agendas without the care for the other group. This is the very reason why we decided to jump ahead in the scene and include the resolution of the conflict between Tevye and Hava, thus giving the opportunity to include Tevye's monologue where he decides that this change is too drastic, and Hava decides to disregard her father's wishes. By doing so, we show how the conflict ends and how the divide between the two groups only grows stronger, and that even today, the rift is still there. So, did you talk to your dad?
No, but I will.
Do you want me to talk to him?
No, that could be the worst thing you could do.
Do you want me to try at least?
No, he's my dad. I'll do it.
Alright, if you think that's what's best. Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'll see you later.
Yeah.
So what were you guys talking about?
You know, just nothing. We're just talking and we've been friends for a while now, and
I prefer if you guys stay friends from a distance. You can't forget who you are and who that man is.
that man has a name.
Of course he has a name. Everybody has a name, even if they are a Democrat.
He's not just a Democrat, he's a person, and a good person at that.
And who says that he isn't? He's just a man with radical ideals, a Democrat. As the Declaration of Independence says, all men are created equal, and therefore he should be able to pursue happiness to the best of his ability, but he isn't one of us.
The world is changing, Dad, regardless of how conservative you are. Besides, the two sides aren't all that different anymore. Life isn't all about politics.
No. Some things will never change. And there are things that will always be different between the two parties, and they will always be different.
Well, we don't feel that way.
We?
Yeah. Connor and I want to get married.
Are you out of your mind? You know what this means, marrying a Democrat?
But Dad...
No, Ember. No. I'm your father, and therefore I have the right to make sure you don't do something that you're going to regret for the rest of your life. I never want you to speak his name again. I never want you to see him again. I'm not going to allow this man change you and who you are and what you stand for.
Dad, I want to talk to you, so just listen to me. Why don't you accept us? It isn't legal for us to be together, and I don't understand how you can be so narrow-minded. It's the 21st century, worse things have happened.
Accept them? How can I accept them? Can I deny everything I believe in? The man she loves wants to go against everything I stand for. He wants to defile everything I've spent my life defending. It would go against my life's work. But she is my daughter. Shouldn't I be trying to do everything in my power to make her happy? But at what cost? The world is changing too fast nowadays, and if I let this happen, I become a hypocrite. No, I must not let this happen. Amber can find a man who shares her idea, and that will ensure she was happy. Yes, that is best for everyone.
And who does Mama teach? To mend and tend and fix, preparing her.
Okay, so
Mike is the Tevye of the show, and therefore he captures the fundamental conflict within the show, which is basically change versus tradition. Mike was a strange character to create because Tevye is so well rooted in the setting of Fiddler, so changing the setting and conflict to a more contemporary one, like Democrat versus Republican, ultimately changed the character in some way, shape, or form. The scene we chose was also an important decision to make. Our group had to choose a scene that clearly exemplified the conflict within Mike, which was either to make his daughter happy or to adhere to like his more traditional viewpoint, and which in this case would have been like to adhere to the his dogmatic view of the Democratic Party. Our original choices between the scenes were the other two monologues that he has with the other two daughters. However, we believe the conflict was not nearly as strong as the one that was in Act 2, Scene 5. In this scene, Mike, or Tevye, is at a clear impasse between making his daughter happy or staying in the world that he like comfortably created for himself and is essentially stuck in for the majority of the play, except for those other two circumstances. And therefore, this scene definitely provides the strength of the conflict, and the fact that Tevye chose his daughters in the other two circumstances, but this situation simply proves too radical for his stance, and therefore he's at an impasse, but ultimately decides to, stay in this dogmatic viewpoint that he's created for himself.
So, the Amber and our version of the script ultimately parallels the character of Hava. Both girls fall for a man that has different beliefs from their own and their families. For Amber, her love has differing political views, while lover had differing religious views. Now, some may argue that it's a big difference between religious views and political views, but today I find religion isn't as prominent in society, while political parties, sometimes you can even have discussions with people without starting a huge argument over Democrats or Republicans. So, Amber is able to look past this in order to pursue what she feels is more important, which is her own happiness, while her father believes that what she's doing is wrong and that it goes beyond their tradition, which cannot be broken. So, while Amber and Hava are able to look past prejudices and go against their traditions and create their own traditions, the father figure, which is Mike in our production, is not willing to look past this. So even though her father doesn't support her relationship, Amber ultimately decides to go against her father and marry the man she loves and leave with him. So even though she leaves the world she knows and is ready to venture on her own path, she still realizes the importance of tradition but is willing to make her own and be with the person she loves.
The character Connor we made represent change. Connor comes in and shows Amber that just because something is set in stone and has always been done a certain way, that doesn't necessarily make it the right way. And just because something is new, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's bad. He opens up Amber's world to different viewpoints and attempts to blend his with hers and shows that that is okay in a sense. Yet this comes at a cost because now Amber has to confront her father about the decision she's made to be with Connor. This sparks a conflict between Amber and her father, for he doesn't approve of the decision Amber is making, thus exhibited through the monologue in Act 2, Scene 6. Therefore, since she can't have the man she loves and her father's approval, Amber is then left to decide between love and the world she's always known.